Hello, welcome to the Argo course. My name is Mohammad and I'm very happy to be here. In the first session, we became familiar with concepts of GitOps, how Argo CD works, and its components. Now, in this session, I intend to install and configure Argo CD using several methods. The first method that I want to use is using kubectl and applying the Argo CD manifest. The second method is using Helm, and the third method is using nginx-ingress-controller. But before that, I would like to inform you that the source of exercises for this course is the killerkoda website, which has many exercises for various tools and technologies, including Argo CD, as you can see here, which we focus on this section only. This section, I mean Argo CD, includes 36, yes, includes 36 exercises, and we will cover each of them according to the tutorial we provide. We are going to use the killerkoda website for our exercises, and for some tasks like setting up Argo CD, I will be using Kind, which I have installed locally. As you can see, I'm using Kind for some tasks like setting up Argo CD. You can also use Kind or Minikube or Kubadium or any other methods that suits you best. This course has some prerequisites such as Kubernetes, and it's better to be familiar with Helm and Terraform because we will use them as well. Now let's move on to setting up Argo CD, but before that, I want to show you something. We can install Argo CD with two different methods. The first method, or the first modes is better. The first mode is non-HA mode. In non-HA mode, if we install Argo CD using non-HA mode, we will have only one replica for each component of Argo CD in our Kubernetes cluster. Only one replica for each component. But if we install Argo CD using HA mode, we will have multiple replicas for each component of Argo CD. It's recommended to use HA mode for production environment, but for testing purposes, we use non-HA mode. In this course, we want to use non-HA mode. If you have 3 or more worker nodes, it's recommended to use HA mode. Okay. Now let's move on to setting up Argo CD. The first method is to use kubectl and apply its manifest. Let's move on to it. Okay. For the first exercise, we want to set up Argo CD. This is the first exercise that we want to use. Let's open it. This is the environment that we want to use for practicing. Okay. In the left, we have three tasks that we want to do these tasks in order. The first task is installing Argo CD using YAML manifests. Verify pods are running and ready. And finally, getting initial admin password and access web UI. Let's do these tasks in order. Start. We have a manifest in /tmp. cdtmp, we have a manifest called install.yaml. Okay? But before applying this YAML, I want to create a namespace called Argo CD to put resources, Argo CD resources into it. I create the namespace kubectl create ns Argo CD, the namespace created, and then I apply the manifest kubectl apply -f tmp install.yam-n Argo CD. Okay, the resources have been created on or in Argo CD namespace. Okay, if I type kubectl get pod -n Argo CD, we have several components of Argo CD here. Application controller and application set controller that we have. I want to talk about application and application set controller in the next sections. So don't worry about these components. The other component is argocd-server. We use this component for authentication purposes, for integrating with external authentication systems like LDAP. We have Argo CD notification controller. We have Argo CD Redis. This component is using for caching purposes. We have Argo CD repo server. This component is used by Argo CD for caching repositories. This component use Redis for caching. Okay? And the last component is Argo CD-server. If we want to authenticate with Argo CD, with using CLI or UI or using gRPC and REST, we should authenticate with Argo CD using this component, Argo CD-server. And it is the only component that we are interacted. Okay. All of these resources are in running state. Let's check it again. As you can see, all of these resources and all of these pods in running state. Okay. The next task is getting initial admin secret for accessing Argo CD dashboard. But before that, I want to show you the dashboard of Argo CD. Let's check this. The dashboard is loading. Okay. This is the dashboard of Argo CD. We have two fields here. username and password. The default username is admin, but what about password? If we want to grab the password, what can we do? Let's check it. Let's check the secrets that we have in argocd namespace. kubectl get secret -n argocd. We have 3 secrets. We have a secret called argocd initial admin secret that it has 1 data. Let's check the content of this secret. I type kubectl get secret, this secret -n argocd and -o yaml. We have a data block and its content is a password, and the password is base 64 encoded. We have to decode it first. Let's decode it. I copy the content and type echo content, pipe it to base 64 -- decode. Now we have the original password. I grab it and I put it into this field and enter. And now we have in argocd account. The login was successful. Okay, this is the process of installing the argocd using kubectl and apply the manifest and getting the initial admin secret for accessing argocd dashboard. Okay, this practice has been finished, but I want to mention before the finishing of this section. Argocd-server is a TLS enabled by default. Argocd-server is TLS enabled by default. It means that if we want to connect to argocd-server, the connection is TLS. But if we want to disable TLS, we can do this by doing some tasks. Okay, let's do the tasks to disable TLS of argocd-server. The first task is checking the config maps of argocd. kubectl get config map -n argocd. We have several config maps here. One of the config maps that is important is argocd cmd-params-cm. It has 1 data. Let's check the content of this config map. kubectl get config map, this config map -n argocd-o yaml. As you see here, it has a data block with this information. Server.insecure equals true. It has been added here. It is not available by default. If you are using killerkoda, and if you are using the default manifest of killerkoda, I think this manifest, let's tmp install.yaml. If you are using killerkoda and if you are using this default manifest, tmp install.yaml, this manifest has been changed. And one of these changes is adding this data block into this config map. Server.insecure is not true by default, but here we can see that server.insecure is true. So now the connection is insecure and TLS is disabled. The second thing that I want to show you here is the services. If we type get svc -n argocd, we have a service type nodeport. We have a service server. We have a service called argocd-server. The default type of this service is cluster IP, but the manifest has been changed, as I said, and the type of the service has been changed from cluster IP to nodeport. Why? Because we want to access Argocd dashboard UI. These two things have been changed in this manifest. Okay? But if we use the original manifest from Argocd documentation, and I type getting started with Argocd, as you see here, I zoom in, as you see here, we can also have a manifest. It is the default and original manifest of Argocd for installing Argocd in non-HA mode. If I copy this manifest and open it up here, we see this manifest here. I search into this manifest argocd-server. Let's search it like a server or kind service. Okay. I want that. Okay. As you see here, I open it here. Let's open a file like test.yaml. This is the original information. This is the original content of the manifest. As you can see here, it is not. I think my search was wrong. Let's try again. Yeah, this is the right content that I want to show you. Past. Yes. This is the original information. In this manifest, in this section, the service type is cluster IP. And as you can see here, we have no things about nodeport. So this is a cluster IP service. Because of that, when we apply this manifest, the type of the Argocd server service is cluster IP, not nodeport. It is nodeport because it has been changed in killerkoda, but by default, it's not nodeport. As you can see here, it's cluster IP. And what about the config map that I showed you? Config map. It has a data block with server.insecure equals true. If I search this config map here, yes. As you can see here, we have no data block. Server.insecure is not available in this config map. It is the default config map. Okay? I said these things because when you want to install Argo CD outside of killerkoda website, you have these things. You have a service with cluster IP, and you have a config map with any data with no data block. Okay, this is the default manifest of Argo CD installation. If you want to change the content of this manifest, you can do this easily. For example, if you want to change the type of this server of this service to nodeport, we can do this like this. Nodeport for HTTP and HTTPS. And also at the type of service, type equals nodeport. And also if you want to disable TLS for Argo CD server, you can do this with add a data block with this field server.insecure equals. But if you don't want to disable TLS, you can leave it. Okay, it was the first method for installing Argo CD using kubectl with applying manifests. But about the second method, I want to use the Argo CD Helm chart. For installing Argo CD with Helm, I have its Git repository here. I prepared it before. To install this Helm chart, it is the Helm chart of Argo CD, argo-helm. This is the Helm chart of Argo CD. For installing it, I search help repo add, and installing its help chart. First of all, I want to add its repo. I want to use kind in my local machine instead of killerkoda. I want to install Argo CD using Helm chart in my local machine with kind. Okay, let's do that. First of all, I want to add its Helm repository here, Helm repo add. Okay, its repository has been added. Helm repo list. We see that Argo repository has been added, and we type helm install Argo CD. But before that, we want to create Argo CD namespace. kubectl create ns Argo CD. kubectl. We can also define an alias. K alias K equals kubectl. Okay. kubectl uh, Helm install argocd from argocd into argocd namespace. Okay, let's do this. Okay, our Helm chart is has been installed. It's the local host. If we type it here, we can unable to connect because our service is cluster IP. If we type get kubectl get svc-n argocd, we can see that the type of argocd-server is cluster IP, and we need to change this type to nodeport. Okay, let's do this. First of all, I want to uninstall this Helm chart. Helm uninstall argocd-n argocd. Okay, first of all, I want to find the values of argocd-server service. In this repository, it is providing additional parameters that we can use, and we can override them in values.yaml of our Helm. I type it here. I type server. Let's check the server. No. Oh, server. Server. I want server.service. Let's find it here. Server.service. Yes, I see that. Server.service, yeah. We can have a dot values YAML. Because of that, I create a file called values.yaml. I have server. We have server.service.type. I type service, and in service we have type equals nodeport. And also I want to add nodeport HTTP and nodeport HTTPS. HTTPS. And let's install the Helm chart again, but now I want to add a flag -f values.yaml to override the values that I defined. Okay. If we type localhost and the port of our Argo City here. Advanced, proceed to localhost, and yes, we have the Argo City dashboard here. And if we check the services of Argo City, kubectl get s3c-n Argo City, we have that the type of this service has been changed from cluster IP to nodeport. Okay, we did that by using values of Argo City Helm chart, and these values helped us to change the type of the service from cluster IP to nodeport. Okay. The second method was about installing Argo City using Helm and Helm with nodeport values. But the third method is about using and installing Argo City using Helm chart again, but in this time I want to use override values related to ingress in my values of Argo City Helm chart. But before that, let's rename this file to values-nodeport.yaml. Okay. I want to show you all values of related to Argo City Helm chart. Because of that, I type helm show values argo/argo-cd redirect to values.yaml. Let's open it. This file has all the values related to Argo City Helm chart. I only want to override the values related to ingress. Let's search ingress in this file. Yes. First of all, I want to enable ingress, to use ingress. After that, I want to use some annotations in our ingress. If we want to use ingress in Argo City, I search ingress Argo City. The first link is about ingress configuration in Argo City. And here we can configure ingress with ingress-nginx. I want to use ingress-nginx, and I want to use option 1, SSL pass-through. And I want to use these two annotations. The first annotation is saying that force SSL redirect equals true. It means that we want to redirect connections to HTTPS. And the second annotation is about sending TLS connection directly to the backend service. In the fact, the above rule terminates TLS at the Argo City API server. We can terminate TLS at the ingress controller, but in this option, we want to terminate TLS at the Argo City API server. Because of that, I want to use this annotation to pass through TLS directly to the backend service. Okay, let's grab these two annotations and them here. Okay. I have no labels. My ingress class name is nginx. Host is like DevOps.hobbies, for example. The path is / by default. Path type is prefix by default. I don't want to change them. I don't want to use TLS block here again. And let's change the false value to true. Okay, I copy this content. Let's clear the file first and type server and paste the content here. Okay. First, let's uninstall the previous Helm chart if it exists. Yes, and then install the new Helm chart. But before that, I want to note that ingress controller must exist in Kubernetes cluster. If you see my ingress nginx namespace, like kubectl get pod -n ingress nginx, I have some resources like ingress nginx-controller, and it's true about my deployment. So my ingress nginx-controller has been added to my Kubernetes cluster before using Argo CD Helm chart with ingress enabled. So it is a prerequisite to install ingress nginx controller before installing Argo CD. And the second note that I want to mention it here is that if we are using SSL path throw annotation, as you see here, SSL path throw equals true, we have to add a flag to ingress nginx to enable SSL path throw. As you can see in this document, it is saying that SSL path throw annotation requires that the --enable -SSL path throw flag be added to the command line arguments to nginx ingress controller. Let's do that. First of all, I copy the content. Okay. kubectl get deployment -n ingress nginx. I copied the name of ingress nginx. kubectl edit -n ingress nginx. kubectl edit deployment. Okay. In args section, I have added --enable SSL path throw before. It is not available by default. I add it before installing Argo CD. So you should enable SSL path throw here as a flag. If it not exists, you should add this flag at the end of the args of this ingress nginx deployment. Okay, everything is good. And now I want to install the Helm chart with override values. Okay, let's install it again. But in this time, I want to use nginx-ingress-controller for serving argocd-server API. Okay, let's check the ingress resource kubectl get ingress-n ingress and -n argocd. Okay, this is my ingress class nginx host devops.hobbies, and I'm waiting to see an address here. --watch. I want to see an address in address field. I'm using devops.hobbies as my host, and this domain name should be added to my etc hosts file if it not exists. Okay, address has been added, and let's check the domain name, https://devops.hobbies. Your connection is not private because it's self-signed certificate. Advanced, proceed to devops.hobbies, and yes, this is the dashboard of argocd, and everything is good. It was the last method that I wanted to show you. These are the 3 methods of installing and setting up argocd using kubectl, and applying manifests, using Helm chart, with overriding nodeport and service values, and installing and setting up argocd using ingress nginx with override ingress values in our Helm chart. Okay. In the last section, you can install Argocd CLI 2. Let's go to Argo section in killerkoda. The first section and the first practice is installing Argocd CLI. Let's solve the things that we have here. Installing Argocd CLI, log into Argocd using CLI, and verify by getting some data using CLI. Okay, let's do these tasks together. Okay, I click on Start. Let's install Argocd CLI version 2.4.8, making executable argocd, and type argocd, and now I have argocd installed. Okay, I want to connect to Argocd API server using CLI. Instead of UI, I want to log in using CLI. For this thing, I want to grab 2 informations here. One of them is getting the IP address of my nodes. Get nodes -o wide. I want my node 01 IP address. And also, I want to know the nodeport of argocd service. kubectl get svc kubectl get svc -n argocd. I want this nodeport also. I click on it. I type it argocd login with this IP address and this port. Okay. As I said earlier, in killerkoda, Argo City is disabled, is TLS disabled. Because of that, we have no certificates here. If you install Argo City in kind or any other in any other environments, your Argo City is TLS enabled by default, but in killerkoda, TLS is disabled. Because of that, I want to use -- insecure flag because we have no certificates here. And I want to connect to Argo City API server using -- gRPC web protocol. Okay. As you can see here, we have a warning. It's saying that server is not configured with TLS. Proceed? I think yes. But I forgot one thing. We want the password of Argo City server. As we learned, we can grab the password like this: kubectl get secret -n Argo City. I copy the name of the secret that we want: kubectl get secret -n Argo City -o Yaml. I grab the password here to decode it. So I type echo the base 64 encode content and pipe it to base 64 -- decode. I grab the content here. Okay, let's log in again. My username is admin, as I said, and the password is in my clipboard. And okay, we logged in successfully. But if you have TLS enabled, you don't need to use -- insecure flag. Okay, it was about installing Argo City CLI, and also you can verify that you have now successfully logged in. For verifying, I type Argo City cluster list, but with -- gRPC web flag. Argo City. Yes, as you can see, I have a result of list of existing clusters. Okay. Well, I think that's enough for this session. Thank you for joining us. In the next session, we will move on to applications in Argo City. Okay, thank you very much. See you soon.